I'm amazed at how many rules there are. And how we all agree to them, even when we don't. Check. Coat, check. Okay. Hat, check. You're so busy playing house. At the beginning, it was just such a new adventure. Oh, death.
I don't want to jinx it, but it sure felt like the first taste of spring out there.
I'm ready to step out again. I'm ready to become an actor again.
Mid to late 30s, is that me? Oh, the neighborhood beauty. Am I the neighborhood beauty?
Said the same thing.
So this was before The Wire.
This is way before the... Yeah, I was in graduate school, and I came to New York. I should have known that New York was not for me. I was perfectly aged for the role, and I'm sure someone younger got it. And then he said, I know who you were with. I thought everything I was working towards was finished. What else was I going to be? It's me. I tend to break things.
Welcome to Filmwax Radio.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, really.
I think Robert was on 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
One of my first guests when I really had no idea what I was doing. So, enough that I...
Well, actually, he was a guest on it at the beginning of this actress run. And so I hadn't experienced any of the film festivals yet and all that stuff. And so I was like, wow, who does he know? How does he get on these things? And
yeah.
So it's really cool to now be here.
Oh, yeah. No, it's nice.
It's an initiation.
Yeah, and I get a lot out of talking to the subjects of films, too. But you also have the unique perspective of being already in front of a camera for many years and having...
Yeah, but I definitely came into this as a subject, which was fascinating because
right.
The acting and performative part of what came out of the movie really happened organically. We didn't discuss it necessarily at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought my neighbor, had an odd idea, and I thought it was going to be more documentary style. Like I thought he was just going to film me doing my thing, and so the performative aspects of the film of Actress came out as we started filming.
I think what people haven't seen it that are listening. You're saying that Robert Greene, who is the director of Actress, he gave you specific directions of things that you were going to do that day, or scenes that he'd like to shoot, or.
He definitely had more of a conceptualized idea of what he was looking for because this is his 4th feature documentary. And so I think he came in knowing, first of all, he knew he needed to create a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And so in his mind, I'm sure he thought, if I could get you doing your dishes and if I could, but
right.
I didn't know any of that going in.
Right.
And when we first started, he really tiptoed around the project because we were both doing it on our free time. No one was going to get paid for this or anything like that. And there was no crew. It was just he had a camera and was like, hey, and so at first he would say things like, well, if you ever feel like being filmed, give me a call. And I thought, who would ever feel like being filmed?
And if they did, who would admit to it?
Right. I mean, I just thought, that's not how these things work, Robert.
Yeah.
Like, should I tell you as a documentary filmmaker? Like, unless you give me a time, I'm not going to want you to come over and invade my life.
This is the exact opposite to reality television.
Yes. This is the exact opposite.
Right, where they can't. It seems like they can't get enough of that camera.
Right, it's embedded in your life, and it becomes so like it's this whole performance. That's what I didn't want, and I thought that's what maybe he was looking for, because just knowing that he would say when he started watching The Wire, that's what created the whole
because he knew
idea.
You?
Because he didn't know. He heard about The Wire forever and hadn't watched it and was kind of like not interested because he assumed it was going to be, whatever, this cult thing that everyone likes. I'm sure I'm going to hate it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Well, he and his wife started watching it, fell in love with it, became engrossed. And then, he came out the next day and was like, you're that woman.
He knew you were an actor, but he must have known you were on The Wire.
Yeah, but he didn't. He only knew me as a mom.
Right.
I mean, and I really was completely under the radar about being an actor. I mean,
so you weren't wearing your Wire T-shirts.
Exactly. I mean, it was so. That's what made it fascinating to him, because he really knew me as a human being that was not in any way.
Okay. Well, The Wire, by the way, was an HBO series that took place in Baltimore, if I'm correct. Right, and it ran for like 5-6 seasons.
Yes, I was on seasons 3 and 4. And I think it ran for 5 seasons.
So it was like at the height of that show's popularity then. And your character was
Teresa D'Agostino. She was a political consultant for her friend running for mayor. So it was a great
was it kind of like an evil
storyline? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of typical. I mean, the hard-edged, sexy woman. And I had as a side note, had an affair with McNulty, one of the other major characters.
Right, okay, yeah.
I kept the story going. Whatever.
All right. So you had a good arc.
I had a great arc. Yes.
What years were those seasons? What years?
Gosh, I have no idea. We shot them I was living in Washington, D.C., and so we shot them, and then they would come out like a year after. so
whether it was in the mid-2000s or late 2000s? Mid-2000s?
Mid-2000s.
First decade of the okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so just giving kind of a context. And now, Actress, the story of the documentary was shot then, if that's the case, like 7-8 years later. You've long since you've left the industry because you felt the rejection.
I felt I became a mom. I got pregnant whilst shooting The Wire.
Yeah,
and in between, I did a lot of theater and things like that.
Like in New York City, or
mostly regional. Like I said, I was in Washington D.C.
Right.
And then I went on a tour. I did a Sherlock Holmes play by Stephen Dietz. It was a wonderful role where I got to wear corsets and wigs and that kind of period piece.
Sure.
Working with great British actors, which I enjoy. I always wanted to be a theatrical actress. I never really watched much television, and I went to a liberal arts school. So then I did a run in Aspen, Colorado, where I took my child, but then I kept doing the audition thing. And realized that like young women are playing the roles. It just started bugging me that I just started not wanting to really be a part of the business. I see these movies out now. I mean, I can't believe they're still going on. I don't know the movie Focus at all, but I like with Will Smith and and this young Australian. And I'm like, are you kidding? Yeah. She's 24. Where the hell are the female roles? He's 46 and she's 24.
Yeah.
Why is that? And why don't we just stop the nonsense?
Yeah.
People are sick of seeing it. It's just
and everybody, they come on this show. I mean, I don't have on Will Smith, but I mean, everybody that comes on the show, when they reference their favorite movies, they talk about Cassavetes and they talk about, I don't know, all the, filmmakers from the 70s and 80s, whatever. And when they were still casting women that looked like real women, and they were in their 30s and 40s, and they weren't these perfect young.
So
and some
malleable.
of them were quite talented.
Of course, but they're 24. I was quite talented at 24, and I did amazing jobs. But my first professional theater job was when I was 24, and now looking back, I was paired with men in their early 50s.
Yeah.
And that's when I started noticing it. I started going, because in the dressing room, the other women that were there was, I think, a woman in her mid-30s, and and they were both single, neither had children. And I thought, but I want children, and I don't necessarily want to be single when I'm in my 30s. But if you're a successful actress, you would have to be. because there's no, and I started,
there's not a lot of room.
And I realized, and I got a lot of the women didn't like me very much, and I thought, what's their problem? And I thought, oh, well, now I can see. I'm 24 years old, just fresh out of college, and I'm playing the sexy kitten that
They
with
weren't
these
ready,
men who are
quite
their
ready
50s.
to,
It's like,
maybe also, right.
And we women then turn on each other because there's only so many roles.
Yeah,
and the only women that I knew growing up in the theater, I was competing against.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many to go around. So
Yeah.
that became an issue too, where I thought, I don't want to be this. I don't speak for all women, but when there's only one woman role to 20 man roles, then you become this like, you have to speak for all women. Like, but no man speaks for all men.
Right. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no nuance there in any of the characters.
Right. Enough is enough. And then you had, fortunately, this other wonderful alternative, which was a family, a children. I mean, it wasn't like you were giving up anything.
Well, that's
a substantial at that moment. I understand.
Yep.
Going back a little bit, though, I want to know, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio.
Oh, what town?
Sandusky, Ohio.
What major town is that here?
It's near Cleveland. It's up
Okay,
on
it's up
very
north.
north tip on
So
Lake
near
Erie.
Illinois. How
It's
far?
gorgeous. It's right in the middle of the state.
Right.
There's an amusement park there called Cedar Point, and,
okay.
and I grew up fishing. My dad owns a bait shop. Not in any way artistic that way. I mean,
Artistic?
Yeah, we don't.
In terms of bait? Is that one of the arts?
No, I just mean we didn't like. I didn't have any actors, or I shouldn't be an actor.
Oh, I
like
see.
I didn't
Right.
have any
Oh, no,
lineage.
no,
It was
you're right.
just
I
more
got
of
you.
like,
Yeah.
you know.
Sure. But you watched TV and went to movies, so
Yeah,
I understand. And there was regional theater, and
Sure.
I mean, of course, even high school play. I mean, you
Yeah,
get the
that's what
bug.
I was like a musical
Yeah.
theater girl.
Sure.
You know,
And
and
so you get the
great
bug that
music
way.
teachers and wonderful.
That's all it really takes. Sometimes is that one experience, and
Yeah.
it can really say, I can't get enough of that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
it was.
it's addictive. And
But it was also to be a part of the community. It was the arts were a big part of our small town.
yeah,
So that was nice.
And so this was like I don't know, in the 80s, like when you were finishing.
I graduated in '92 in
Okay.
high school.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm not asking, and I don't know how old you are. So,
I don't care, and I'm very proud to. That's the whole point.
It's true, but I've learned not to ask. But I was trying to get a context of your age in the sense of when you were young, like maybe what actresses or actors in general, maybe a couple of your favorites. I'm just curious because that can also play a part in why you might choose to pursue it. It's like you want their career, that kind of career.
Oh, I pursued it because of a music teacher that I love to sing. I actually started in a conservatory of music, so I cut my teeth on Cole Porter musicals, movies, old movies, dancers. I love to dance and sing, and that, and then
like those old MGM Hollywood
exactly
musicals.
I mean, it's funny now because I'm so far removed. For me, it was about I sang the national anthem in high school at all my events. I was in track. I was in volleyball. I was very athletic, and it was a social thing for me. That we had great musical theater productions in my high school that had full orchestras, and things like that. So I just wanted to be an actress. You know, that kind of big performative, over the top stuff.
And then probably everybody knew you as she's going to be an actress.
I had a drawing drawn of me in my senior year by an art teacher that you're going to go. I was most musical kind of thing. And
what did your yearbook say?
Most musical. That's exactly.
It's very Midwestern. This sounds like very Midwestern.
Goodness, and I was an all-American, all-Ohio cheerleader. I mean, then when I got to college, I started in conservatory, and I was following that path. Then that was the moment of rebellion where I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, who am I? And I ended up transferring to Ohio University. And then I wanted to be a real actor. I wanted to forget singing and dancing. I want to do political plays. Right. I want to do stand up for gay rights. And like all of a sudden my friends changed. I became a total hippie, and I became an artist. Yeah. Like there was a total shift there where I said I rejected all the things that all-American and really found my voice as an artist. I'm so glad I did that.
Did you think going to Northwestern? That wasn't too far away.
I didn't know much. I mean, the first time I was on a plane, I was 15. The first time my mom was on a plane, she was in her 40s visiting me at a summer theater. I mean, I didn't have any vision. I'd never been to New York City, had no idea what I was getting into, as a career. I just didn't have, what were the other options? Me being an education, a teacher, So it was all or nothing for me.
Yeah. So did you go to New York to start auditioning?
Yeah, so then I graduated, and then I had a summer where I graduated when I was 21, so I was pretty young.
Yeah.
Went through college right away, got great grades, because I liked other things too, and then I went right into graduate school. So over the summer, I thought, what am I going to do with my life? I'm 21 years old, had no idea how to survive in any way. I'd just been in high school and then college, and had a couple like jobs at TGI Fridays, and was real. And my parents had no idea how to help me or support me. There was no money, so it was like, but I was invited to go back. Someone had dropped out of the program. I went to Chicago and auditioned for IRDAs, which is a grad program for actors. You audition all over the world.
Okay.
And and I got a couple offers, but still was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't have any money. And someone dropped out of the Ohio University program, and the head of that program saw my audition in this IRDA audition in Chicago, and so she called me and said, we'd like to offer you the position. So essentially, like, all of a sudden I was guaranteed this safety net of 3 years in college again.
Yeah,
Woo,
which you already thrived in. And
I'd already, right.
So,
and, but in undergrad, I kind of went unnoticed. I mean, I'm not that special. I was like a typical Midwest. I didn't have any great roles in undergrad. I mean, because I was trying to find my way as I wanted to play character roles, And they were like,
play Martha and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
I didn't get to do that one. No, I didn't get to do
Lady
it.
Macbeth.
All these things I wanted to do. And so in graduate school is when I got to finally grow into myself, grow into being a woman and not being a kid. And we did a 1 year at Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, which is a wonderful regional theater, was part of our graduate where we were interns, and we just did all the understudy roles and things like that. And from there, I got to perform in The Importance of Being Earnest. I was an understudy, but I had to go on, which never actually happened. So that was a big. And when I went on and did a great job, saved the theater, the 600 seats or whatever that they were going to have to close the show, that's when the artistic director saw me differently than a student.
Yeah.
And from there, he hired me on several times, as a professional actor, and I got my equity card. And
nice.
so it's a great story of just doing the work.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think that's a big thing. The showing up and being prepared is a huge amount of being an actor.
It's a lot of work. It's not about being a celebrity, and that's why I don't have time.
And looks, glamour. It's often it's about actually knowing your role, knowing the play, doing the homework, being dependable type of actor, showing up, knowing the work,
and the
knowing
story
how to talk,
getting articulating.
relate.
Memorizing lines. It's very, and having your body as an instrument, being in shape. Being ready to.
Yeah, and having a diverse set of muscles to exercise, or to be able
and
to
also
use.
For that, being aware, to be able to embody different characters, you have to know a hell of a lot about the world. I have to spend time reading
history,
and
history
and
huge.
Exactly and dialects and all these things, language, music.
Yeah. I was married to an actress. She had the same ethic, and she's finishing a Broadway play right now and on a TV series.
Fantastic. Yeah,
no, it's good. I mean, but she went to NYU, where I think they also, grad acting, where I think they teach that same approach. That's what they emphasize. They're handing you those tools.
I absolutely took my job
as a
very
business.
Seriously. I thought as an artist, I said I have something to say. And that you have to have that. It's not about I don't know what other people, why you would get into the business if it was for celebrity, but there's so much of that now.
Right. Yeah, but you could do that on a Vine video now. So
right, exactly.
So that, which is good, because now, okay, you do that, and now we're going to get back to the acting here.
That's what's so great about the film.
Yeah, right. So you finished the grad program, got on a bus, showed up, found a manager, got sent to The Wire, got that role.
Nope.
And
Actually, no, that's all.
I'm kidding.
I came to New York.
Yeah.
And started crying. I mean, I started waiting tables, pounding the pavement. Couldn't get an agent to save my life because of what I had. Had my equity card, but no one cares. And I said, how do people do this? And knew that if I stayed in New York, that I would be 1 in a million, and I would end up probably, an alcoholic drug addict. Because all my friends, that from college, from OU, had moved to New York. Most of them were gay guys. They had come to New York to finally live the life that they wanted to live. I didn't have that same like, okay, now I can be, party animals.
one of the characters in The Importance of Being Earnest. I think it was the pretentious aunt, the portentous aunt, whatever. You know what I mean? Of Gwendolyn, or I forget what the name of the aunt was like interviewing one of the guys who is pretending to be her, whatever, and admits that he smokes, and she says, every man should have a hobby.
Exactly.
So drug addiction and alcoholism is you got to have something to keep yourself busy.
Oh yeah, and that's what made me really interesting and creative.
Right.
All the drugs I did.
You moved to Washington though, right?
Yes. So I just realized that I was not going to be happy creatively. I needed space, and so essentially I followed a boyfriend who was living in Washington D.C. I said, okay, I'll go there. That's when I got on The Wire, and it's
that's
the
amazing,
best story because I had no agent, didn't have my SAG card, and there was a local out of Baltimore, Pat Moran Casting hired all of the extras, the locals, and for some reason David Simon, the writer, or someone said to audition this role locally
there. Oh,
they auditioned it in London, they auditioned it in New York, they auditioned it in LA, and I didn't know any of this until after.
Wow.
When we were at one of the premieres. David Simon's girlfriend said, "Are you the local hire?" And I thought that was kind of a funny thing to say, and I'm like, I guess so, that I'm a local hire as opposed to
right, a New York actress.
But it's a testament to them, and they took a chance on me, and apparently they had seen, because I auditioned, didn't know the show, didn't really care. I was planning on visiting, like my boyfriend was coming in from Paris. It was always about boyfriends for me, life. Most life is. And so I didn't think it was a big deal, didn't know how big it was going to be. And then they called weeks later and then said, can you come back in?
Yeah.
And I thought, God, isn't that old? Isn't that over? But I found out later that they had auditioned around like bigger names and L.A., New York. But they didn't want a Law and Order type, and that's what they were getting by these professional actors that have agents. There's a stereotype, that all women in suits plays, and David was really wanting to not do that, so he took a risk on me, and so my friends were like, "Holy shit, you did it!" I mean, because they all thought, "What are you doing in Washington D.C.?" And I'm like, "I'm going to break into the regional theater here. I'm going to do good work, and people are going to see it. And then I'm going to work, and I'm going to work, and I'm going to work."
You're right, and then maybe it will come to New York or not, or whatever.
I won't. Maybe I'll live in Chicago. I didn't care about the big thing. I just wanted to make a living.
Yeah, I understand. Right. It was that same approach, the kind of more practical work-a-day approach to just working
and be
doing
happy.
Good work.
Do it for me, because I wasn't going to be happy waiting tables.
And you were never cared about the celebrity aspect.
I never cared. I don't. Yeah.
Okay. But during the time that when you got on The Wire and it became such a big show, you must have went to award shows and red
a little
carpets
bit.
And
I definitely got a taste of it. I got a taste of it. I would kind of like. I was invited to like hip hop parties because The Wire, was mostly African American. So I was like the little white girl one time I got on the set at like 6 a.m. and had like a cotton skirt and tank top and my Tevas on, that's where, and by the end of that night, we were at a club in Baltimore and they're like, the cast of The Wire's in the house, and Idris Elba was DJing, and I'm like, how did I land? So but it wasn't my scene. I didn't feel like my voice would ever be heard. I was proud to be a part of this wonderful show, and now it's actually the cult following of it. It has legs, far more reaching than we could have ever seen at the time when we were doing the show. But I got a taste of it, and I definitely rejected it. I was like, "This isn't. I'm an artist. I don't." It's like I was invited to fashion shows, and that made me go, "Oh, I really don't like fashion in a sense of like wealthy people buying fancy clothes from. It's not my thing, and I don't want to represent." So part of who I was just rejected the whole thing, and probably to my detriment. To other people would say, God, you could have, because everyone's like, you need to, keep working and build on it, go. If you don't do it now. And so then I started feeling like a failure all the time because I started getting auditions, but it was like with the other people auditioning were Lily Taylor and Mary Louise Parker. And so I was thrown into this, and I didn't have time to, I just want to do some small regional theater. It was like I went from doing nothing to being famous. So then I was
right.
competing with people that had real agents.
All of a sudden, right? There was no in between time where you gradually kind of worked your way up through the audition ranks until it was like, okay, now I'm going for the lead,
so I don't really know
in this indie
anyone
film or that
in the
play
business,
or,
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And what was David Simon like?
Well, they
as a
were all
boss?
really down to earth, amazing people because they were real people. They were journalists beforehand. They weren't movies.
And they weren't in Hollywood.
Not
you
at
guys
all.
Were shooting
we were in Baltimore and
right.
on the sets, and they hired local people, and all of the trailers were downtown in the ghettos areas, and what was that like? What were the folks from the community like there? They really enjoyed it. I mean, you could sense that the bouncer, the guy that was like, what? There were times that that people would ask me for change when I'm trying to run my lines. This woman's like, can I have some? And I'd have to be like, no, I'm trying to run you have no idea, woman. Like, I'm running my lines here. I'm going to be on HBO. Leave me alone. But I lived in a terrible part of DC at the time. I mean, I had gunshots and there was a heroin addicts on my doorsteps, lots of prostitution where I could afford to live. So for me, it was just a part of being a starving artist. I relate to all those people. It wasn't like coming in and being like, I never did the Hollywood thing either. So, but of course being on set was really grand because you have a hair and makeup person and they took these suits and, Mary, the seamstress, ripped them all apart and made them fit my body perfectly. It's like, this is awesome.
And did they drive you home at the end of the day?
Yeah, they would. I mean, you always had a driver or someone.
Yeah.
But I drove my own car most of the time.
Okay.
Had my little red Grand Am, but I loved going out. And then the first day that we shot, Dominic West was like, "Hey, you have a car." He's like, "You want to go out?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go out," because after a while, being driven around all the time is a little annoying. Sometimes you just want to go to the movies.
And you want to be spontaneous.
You want to be exactly.
Yeah.
But when if you don't show up at the set, that'll cost them $50,000. They want to know where you are.
Yeah.
So
no, I understand. Right, it's an insurance policy they're on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was nice to have my own car. I was like, yeah, let's all go to a movie or something.
But you fell in love or met someone and eventually was this after The Wire and then you
in the middle of season, so I knew that I was going to have another season on The Wire, but they didn't know how many episodes. I mean, it could have been 1, 2,
but it was the season.
But they said your character will go through. It's going to be in season 4, but we're not shooting it until next year. These things they were so far.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so
like The Sopranos sometimes would be like a year and a half.
It was
between
so
seasons.
long in the making, and and I got paid well to do The Wire, but I only shot for probably shot 14 days. I mean, so you can't. That doesn't. You don't live your life on that. So now I'm like, okay, now I have to try to become an actor and find something to do in between. But I know I'm going to be shooting this, so now I got to go to New York and find an agent. All the guys on the show, Aiden, Dominic, the people, all the other actors, like, you should move to New York and you should get an agent now. And so I'm like, all right. So hesitantly, I left my great life in Washington, D.C. because I was working with children in the mornings, singing and stuff like that in Georgetown, and created a wonderful group of people that I felt healthy and artistic. And so moved to New York, moved with a friend of mine. Dropped $7,000 in one day trying to sign papers and all my savings was gone, and started trying to meet with agents and just all the actors on The Wire. I would say, William Delaney, can you get me an interview with your agent? Oh, sure. And I really had a hard time with that process. I have to admit, going in and they'd be like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Hi, I'm on The Wire." And they're like, "What? I'm on an HBO show." At that time, The Wire wasn't big. The Wire got big after.
Oh, okay.
At the time, it was Sex and the City and The Sopranos. And so it didn't, and my scenes hadn't aired yet when I was meeting with these agents. So they didn't really care. And then they would say, I sent once it did air, an agent called me back and said, "You should have come in. I saw your scene, and you should have come in looking like that. Like, you look fabulous." And because I came in looking like myself. I mean, I was a broke actor. I look nice, but I don't have suits. I don't have. And I certainly am not an attorney. Like, I'm an actor.
wanted you
so,
kind of packaged already.
yes.
Like
so
a
this is what I...
proven entity. That's the problem with
That's
it.
the fucking problem.
Right,
I'm like, I don't want to play
they don't wanna
Teresa
think.
D'Agostino. They don't want to think at all.
Right.
And that's what they say. So they say,
ear peg, they got the hole. They just wanted to go like this and then
Yes.
collect their percent.
yeah. So I got in a ton of, like, I went to
Yeah.
producers'
I'm
meetings
sure not
for,
everybody's like that, but
for Law and Order and all
Yeah.
these things, and so I was like, and I again just felt like, fuck you.
Yeah,
I'm
thank you very
rejecting
much.
this.
Yeah.
I just wanted, so I rejected it, and I didn't end up signing with anyone.
Okay.
And at that time, it could have been to my detriment. Like, why are you doing it? And then I met my partner, and so it seemed like I said, can we do other things? He ran a bar in New York
he was
City,
an
and we
upstate.
opened, and so we moved out of the city, and we're going to open
he had
some
the city, a
restaurants.
place in the city,
Yes.
and you guys wanted to move just a little north of Westchester,
Exactly.
and like get a house and then open a business up there.
Yes, which we
and then
did.
Just, you do your little couple of weeks down in New York every once in a while and take some acting gigs. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was the plan. And
then Robert Greene shows up.
and then
on
Robert
your
Greene
door.
shows up at my door, and he's like, "Hey, we have to do something." And at the prompting of his wife, I think, because I think in a way she wanted him home, but I hung out with his wife a lot as moms,
Right.
comparing, what time our children went to bed and what we were going to cook, doing
have
the
two boys?
knitting.
I forget.
I have a boy and a girl.
You have a boy and a girl. Okay.
Yes, and she had a boy and a girl. So, Robert would come home, and Deanna's like, I've been hanging out with Brandy. She's telling me all these stories about The Wire and who she dated. And, and so she's like, you really should do something with her. So it was really her prompting. And then they started watching the show and thought,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to be
Right.
kismet,
Yeah. And then HBO will air it.
that was the hope.
Was it?
No, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
I'm
well,
sure.
ultimately, it's what every documentary
You know,
filmmaker
I mean,
wants.
there were so many
At this
opportunities.
point.
This
Yeah,
movie,
but this-
Robert was like, if we could get it in, there were so many disappointments, even in this. He thought, if we could get this into Sundance, our dreams will all be made.
Yeah.
If we could get into South by Southwest, and no.
Film
So
Comet
we're
Selects, which is Lincoln Center did it, and that's pretty prestigious.
Yes, but that wasn't at the beginning.
Right,
He
no, I
decided to premiere it at True False because they've been so good to his films.
right.
And thank God. I mean, I enjoyed it, but who knew it would have a life? You never
Yeah,
know.
Right.
when
No,
you get
until you get that first, a break, and then you're always on tenterhooks until then. But yes, so I remember it was the opening. No, it was not Film Comet Selects, excuse me. It was Art of the Real.
Art of the Real.
Yeah. It was the opening night of Art of the Real. Yeah. Glad I remembered that. Which is when Robert came on last time.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
I
And
mean,
so,
to be at
yeah.
Lincoln Center as an actress who loves
Wow, yeah.
musical theater and all of these other things that I always dreamed of being there, to be there for a film. And at the time, not for that screening, but we had a run at Lincoln Center as well. They gave us a week run
Oh, right, yes.
afterwards.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Listen Up Philip was playing
Alex
there.
West Perry's film, right?
And I have a great scene in that because Robert
Forgot
Greene
about that. I know he edited
it.
that, right?
So I get a call from a producer saying, "Hi, we want you in our film." Robert Greene and Sean Price Williams, who is the cameraman,
The
said,
DP.
"You're great, and we want you. We have to get you in our film." So I shot that with Jonathan Pryce and Jason Schwartzman, and again because of Robert Greene.
What scene was it? Because I forget now.
The drunk scene where they bring where.
Yes. They bring these two girls back?
Yep, I'm one of the drunken girls.
Oh, I either forgot or I didn't recognize you.
I that's a compliment.
Yeah, of course it
I
is.
think people and
I don't
because-
remember that
yes,
you were in that.
and that's
But I
what's so
remember the
great
scene
about being an
very well,
actor.
yeah.
I don't
The daughter's
wanna,
upstairs.
Yep.
She comes down and she's
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, right.
So for me, it's like, what is making it? I don't know. But when I was at Lincoln Center and I was in 2
Right.
movies out of 3,
Yeah.
and the Godard piece is in the middle, I'm like, and by the
No,
poster
then-
is me. I'm like, I done it. This is it. Well,
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
want to
Right,
be
no, I
anyone
get it.
else.
Right. You've realized a dream. But then you're like, well, what the fuck's wrong with Godard? That he didn't
Exactly.
cast me in his
Exactly.
crappy
There's
movie.
always something to be.
I'm three-dimensional. 3D. And so the film follows you, for those who haven't seen it, again, the documentary it's something of a little bit of a hybrid, but it's a documentary, and it's kind of has its verite style because there's nobody interviewed. I forget, did you do any voiceover in that? Or
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
We started with a voiceover,
right.
and that was Robert's.
Yeah.
It was all things that I said originally. We never, there was no script, but it was something that I said originally.
Who's that?
Hi.
Is it a blue man or is it a?
What's that? Okay, can you talk with them first? Cool. Oh, hi. Okay, yay. We have a meeting. I have another meeting today, which is exciting.
Which is what?
Producer and a casting director of a new theater that they're creating, a summer theater in Vermont.
Oh, great.
They're doing a replica of the Old Globe.
Shakespeare.
Yeah. And we're
Stratford-on-Avon.
Yeah.
Is that where that was?
And we're talking about perhaps collaborating in some way, maybe doing Kiss Me Kate and Cole Porter. And so for me, it's a total...
That's called Taming of the Shrew.
Yep, exactly.
Aren't you at all impressed by my knowledge of the theater? Just kidding around.
I am, of course I am.
I'm only teasing you.
Anyway, we're back to where we were.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was just talking about reminding people that it's called Actress, and you told about its theatrical run, and then as people listen to this in March of 2015, it is now available on digital platforms. So we're going to tell people that they can go and finally see this thing right in bed, or in their tub, or wherever they want to watch it.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to give away too much from the film, but there's the stuff of life occurs. I mean, during this period of times. I don't know how much I should say. How much you guys, as far as...
it becomes a lot about real life and Robert,
your family, and your marriage.
And my family, and the dissolving, I guess, of that.
Yeah.
That's fair to say. I think that starts from the beginning of the movie, and that was a really touchy situation because we were all friends, and when I agreed to do the film, my partner Tim, was all for it and just said, "Well, what else?" I was pretty miserable because I wasn't at the time being inspired, and I wanted to do something. I thought, should I get back into acting? What should I do? And so he said, well, just Robert's hounding you, just do it. Maybe it'll make you happy. Okay, he just wanted me to be happy. He just didn't want to.
Yeah,
it's like, what is wrong?
You mean do his documentary, but. You also did end up during the course of the film going down, right? You started getting the bug again too.
Exactly. Well, I was always doing shows in the city with my friends. I have a friend that's a casting director at Blue Man Group, and he is a director that I worked with a while ago, and he composes on the side, and they always had me come in like once a year and sing a song at the Duplex, which is a cabaret style club in New York. So I always had my fingers still into artistic acting, just not so big as The Wire, and so it looked like, what is she doing now? Well, I loved playing music and singing with my friends. So I did a show where I just sang one song with a group of people, and the people running the cabaret said, you should do your own show. And I was like, oh, great, thank you. I thought they wanted to rent their space, and so they're trying to convince me that I should rent their space. But the guy called back, Tom, lovely man, and he said, no, we'll give you the space. Like, you're great, and you should. And so that was like, okay, I'll do a show. I mean, who am I to say no to a free space in New York? And I called my friends that I usually work with, and they said, we always pay for that space, so you should take the challenge. Mm-hmm. So then I started working with the music director, a director at Blue Man Group that I was just friends with. Mm-hmm. And I said, will you help me? I have to do a one-woman show. I don't even know what that means. But And he said, yeah, I'll help you. So for 4 months, we start rehearsing and become friends and essentially fall in love. Well, that's all going on during the filming of Actress, that Robert really has no idea any of that's happening because we're filming in Beacon. And it's also, as much as you're being real, everyone has a private life. Mm. And I didn't know how much to tell Robert and how much. And so finally, when Robert found out that my relationship's dissolving at home, it's not going well,
right.
His response was, we'll leave all of that out of the film. Because he didn't think Tim, first of all, would let us have a film because none of us signed release forms. We were all doing this together. On faith. And at any time I could pull out because we were friends and we couldn't be enemies. He wouldn't put out the movie if I didn't agree.
Unless you're completely on board, then there's no point in having like a contract or something.
Exactly.
But once Tim, I guess, agreed, your partner, the father of your children, he agreed to he allowed this story to be part of the film.
Which was huge and so brave of him.
What was his rationale? Do you know?
Well, I do know. He Ironically, and the only way this movie exists is because Tim went to film school.
Oh.
He studied at San Francisco State and loves Cassavetes. But moved to New York to be a writer, to write screenplays. I mean, he lived in LA for a while, tried to make it, and then finally moved to New York, and then got into the bar. But was waiting tables. Essentially, started owning his own bar because he had to make a living.
Yeah, and you're good at it. And then,
he's very good at it. Exactly. But once he saw some footage of what Robert was doing, he said, "I hate this film. I don't want to." It's heartbreaking.
Yes,
but it needs to be out there. And I think he always knew that, I think he always respected me as an artist, and he still does. And so he was like, this is interesting. And he avoids it. He doesn't want to see it.
He never saw it. So
I think he saw the whole thing.
Okay, but he wasn't at the premiere.
He's not, he doesn't want to part anything to do with it, but he saw it, what the footage is.
Did your kids see it?
Yes. My Henry just saw it.
How old is Henry?
He's 8.
Okay.
And there was a premiere in Cleveland essentially it was like a reunion from all my friends, my mom, and my sister called Cedar Lee, the theater, and said, my sister's in a great movie, you need to screen it. And they said, we've actually heard of it. It's in the New York Times.
This is up in Ohio, right?
In Ohio.
Yeah, that's nice.
So we went there to do a screening, and I had to get up and speak. And I thought, and so my sister was having my niece see it, and I said, Henry, do you want to see the film? Because and he said,
it's going to be weird if you don't.
I think so, yeah. Sure. And so he saw it. I mean, it says Stella hasn't seen it. I think it made him realize that I was an actress. I mean, he'll say, my mom, the actress, and I think he completely respects it. But he also gets that it's a movie because it's.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, that happened, but out of sequence. And, wasn't, I think in a way it was great to not keep it from him because he now says, I was there for all of that, but it didn't happen that way,
Yeah. Well, again, my kid also, I have a son, actually, and he's a little older than your son, but, and his name actually, we were supposed to be Henry, to be honest. Really? Then we changed it to Jacob. But he just saw his mother in a play, and he sees her in movies and TV stuff. It's interesting but he takes it all he's seen it much more, I think, because she's been always doing it.
Right. I was Henry, I think it was hard on him at first because it took me away from him.
Yeah.
I mean, Henry knew me. At one point he said, Mom, what do you do?
Right.
And that's when I was like, oh my God, I have to get out of the house because I was a real stay-at-the-home mom. I mean, I was, making bread and knitting, and I was going to do it well.
Yeah.
And when I realized I was playing the role of stay-at-home mom. Really well.
And there's no award for that.
No,
which shows you our priorities because. Yeah. In life, we give awards
we need
to
awards.
people that pretend, and they give them, and they make tons of money, and we don't give it to the most important people.
No. It's all the fabrication that we like.
So you're making your artisanal bread at home.
Exactly. So I think Henry, it was hard on him because he's like, when are you coming home? Where are you going? Why can't I go with you?
Yeah.
I mean, because last year I got to go so many beautiful places and film festivals and meet all of these amazing people and
making so many new friends.
So many new friends. It's incredible. I can't believe now. I can't believe how boring life was before.
I know. Well, it's interesting. It almost seems like you responded more to this case where you're not acting per se. It's it's real life. It was more thrilling, it sounds like, than even your experience on the set of The Wire.
Far more thrilling.
Far more. Okay.
And
it's okay. This is the soundtrack of New York City.
Yeah.
That same ambulance has been in about 20 of my shows now. I'm convinced it's the same guy.
He knows. Yeah. This is as an actor, first of all, it's everything I wanted because I want to collaborate. As an actor, you're always put in a desperate position where it seems like you need something from the other person because without the collaborators, you're nothing. And so to meet people, it always felt like a desperate act, like you need something from them instead of coming on as a peer.
Right.
So as a subject of a documentary, all of that wipes away. I mean, I meet all these filmmakers, but once they see the film, they know me.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's work together. Okay, let's work together.
Have you gotten work from the
I've gotten a lot of work from it.
Have you?
And Robert said I would, and I didn't believe it.
Right, you got to listen to Philip.
Listen to Philip. And then I just shot a short film in Dallas with Jason Reimer, who wrote it. They're with the Texas Theater,
Okay.
Which is a refurbished film venue.
Right.
Awesome. We met them at the Dallas Film Festival, hung out a little bit, and I got a call saying, "Hey, we've written something. We're going to fly you in." And a lot.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it's. And I've got scripts right now written by Katie Orr from Atlanta.
Oh, sure.
She it's like I want you to be in my movie, and I'm going to write it for you, and so I've been reading it, and I just can't wait to shoot it.
I was going to invite you to co-host my show, but I guess you're too busy.
Bummer. I'm sure I could find time.
Okay, well, I enjoyed it when I saw it, and it was for The Art of the Real. Now, remember, it's such a great film. I hope everybody goes and checks it out after they hear this if they haven't seen it yet. Robert Greene is the crew on this, pretty much. Did Sean help shoot some of
One day Sean came in and AJ Schnock came in. I was in LA, and so AJ shot me in LA. Okay. I was there visiting for Blue Man Group, and Bill Ross came in for one day, brothers. Just visiting. But these are all Robert's friends.
It's nice because he can kind of count them in on the crew. Yeah.
Exactly, and it was just fun to have
I got
them.
you. Right. Well, I'm going to South by this year, and Ross Brothers have a film in there called Western. I'm really anxious to see.
Yes, I can't wait. And they're doing a new project. I guess Robert was in on.
Okay.
In the coming up too. So.
It's very clubby. It's called Actress, and it's about Brandy Burre, and you can see it for sure on iTunes.
Yep. iTunes, VOD, cable VOD.
Cable, and it's at the top of the menu.
I know.
It's that,
brilliant.
Because it's called Actress. So people will
we're
actually watch it. You'll probably do well on VOD because they'll see Actress, and that's kind of got an interesting name. They'll say,
I hope people listen to it, and I hope it starts a conversation that is well overdue.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And, it was just all fell together so beautifully. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Anytime. Come back with the next.
I will next time I have a project.
And you can also see Brandy in a very funny scene in Listen to Philip, which I'm sure will be out any day now on also digital platforms. Because is it already out?
I think it's out.
Already? It did come out right in the fall, didn't it? Because it came out right after the New York Film Festival. Is that when? So right, didn't it?
Yeah,
almost like right after. So it came out in October.
It premiered at NFF, yeah.
Right, and then it came out in October theatrically, right? It was like right after the New York Film Festival. So it is I guess going on 4 or 5 months. Anyway, thanks again, Brandy.